Hi guys, it's Carrie and I am doing another installment in my series Tarot and the Human Experience. In this series, I essentially try to take concepts that I have gleaned from tarot cards and talk about how they relate to our experience as human beings in hopefully a practical and a graspable way. Today we're going to talk about the concepts of unity and duality. So in the tarot, we start with card 0, the Fool. And I talked about this in an earlier installment of this series, that the Fool is this boundless, universal, free-flowing energy. When we get to cards 1 and 2, the energy that with the Fool was just this open-ended energy now becomes directed into two specific avenues. Rachel Pollack talks a lot about this in her book 78 Degrees of Wisdom. She discusses the fact that 1 and 2 are the first real numbers. And that's symbolic in that the Fool, again, is card 0. So with the Fool, everything's really kind of boundless. With the Magician and the High Priestess, we get into the first idea of things coming into form. Even further than that, we get into the concept of contrast and duality. The Magician and the High Priestess in many ways can represent the entire concept of opposites. So the Magician represents masculinity and the High Priestess represents femininity. Magician is light, High Priestess is dark. Magician is active, High Priestess is receptive, and so on. Of course, there's a whole process of things that happens along the way throughout the rest of the major arcana, but for the purposes of this topic, I just want to look at the Magician and the High Priestess and how they relate to card 21, the World. So in the World, we essentially see the unification of the concepts that are represented within the Magician and the High Priestess. The World is the card that represents integration and wholeness, and the whole concept behind tarot is it teaches us a path of integration. So it's really powerful that with the culmination of this, we end up in the World, a card that brings together all of the things that seem to be opposites. Rachel Pollack points out that even the numbers are both present in the World. So again, the Magician is card 1, the High Priestess is card 2, and the World is card 21. So we have even these two numbers that first split off and led us into this whole concept of duality and opposites. Both of those numbers are now present, 2 and 1, in the World. The World represents the aim of many spiritual practices. The World represents the concept of integration, the concept of embracing all of the contradictions within our experience and finding unity, even within things that seem to be opposites. It's a pretty core teaching of a lot of spiritual traditions that ultimately all is one and we are all connected, and these are the concepts that we see reflected in the World. I find it really interesting, however, to look at the way this is laid out within the tarot. We still need to navigate our human experience by understanding and acknowledging opposites. So in some ways there's this weird paradox at work here. We know that unity is the ultimate truth, yet we also cannot deny that duality is central to our human experience. We go through experiences that manifest themselves in both the Magician and the High Priestess, and this contrast is what helps us understand ourselves and what helps us understand our lives and what helps us understand our place in the world. I think where a lot of times people get tripped up and end up feeling isolated or feeling depressed is when you can't see past the separation, when you can't see past the opposites. Because even though within our experience we have to go through this process of having contrast and feeling these two kind of polarizing energies of the Magician and the High Priestess, we need to get to a point where even when we're in the midst of that separation and that duality, we can feel within us the ultimate truth, which is unity, and that both of these things are true and both of these things are really part of the same bigger picture, even though they seem to be opposites. It's a hard thing to fully wrap your brain around. It's a very hard thing for me to fully wrap my brain around. In fact, I've been procrastinating making this video for a long time because I really wanted to do this topic justice and I wanted to explain it in the most articulate way possible. But eventually I got to the point where I just had to say, I'm going to talk about this to the best of my ability with where I am now, so that's what I'm doing. The concepts that I'm driving at here have been expressed in various cultures in a variety of ways. One of my favorite symbols that I think illustrates the point that I'm trying to make here is the yin-yang. So in this symbol we have the light and the dark, so they're separate, but they're both parts of the same whole, the same circle. And then also within each of those compartments, they're imbued with a taste of their opposite. This is a really similar concept to the kind of trinity that I'm laying out here with the magician, the high priestess, and the world. The world is that bigger whole, that bigger circle, and then the magician and the high priestess are the compartments within that whole. So it's really just this interesting kind of brain trip, this kind of paradox that unity is the ultimate truth, but duality is necessary for us to navigate our experience as human beings. And again, I just want to point out that it's interesting to me that this kind of universal unchained energy of the Fool is present in all of the cards, but with the Magician and the High Priestess, we start to see the magic that can happen when, instead of just being this broad energy, it starts to go into specific avenues. This is where life really starts to pick up and where things really start to happen, and all of the interesting, multifaceted buffet of the human experience begins to lay itself out for us to begin to traverse through. I know this concept of unity and duality is a very heady, philosophical, spiritual topic, and I don't by any means claim to be doing it justice whatsoever, but I felt that it was time for me to at least try to talk about this from my perspective and how these three cards have enriched that perspective. So I hope you found something interesting within this video. I thank you for watching, and if you have anything to add to the discussion, please leave me a comment. That would make me very happy. I will talk to you soon. Bye.